Welcome to the Hindu Daily. Okay, let's dive right in. First up, this really huge initiative India is looking at embedding artificial intelligence across the entire K-12 curriculum.
Right.
We're talking starting really young, like class 3, beginning around 2026-27. It seems tied into the National Education Policy 2020.
It is, and it's presented as, a core part of preparing the future workforce, not just an add-on.
Exactly, a national mission, they're calling it.
Yeah.
But the scale, that must be the first big question, right?
Oh, absolutely. The scale is, well, it's staggering. Think about it. Training the teachers. They're talking about needing to upskill over 10 million educators. 1 crore.
10 million.
Yeah. Now, there are pilot programs happening. Since 2019, they've apparently trained over 10,000 teachers, with support from companies like Intel, IBM, and government institutes like Nail It.
Okay, so 10,000 is a start, but compared to 10 million.
It's a drop in the ocean, really. It shows intent. But the real challenge is getting all those educators not just trained, but comfortable, confident enough to actually use AI meaningfully in their classrooms, not just, teach about it from a book.
And that confidence probably comes when they see how it can genuinely help them and help the students. The sources talk a lot about personalization.
Yes, that's a key promise. Moving away from that traditional, everyone gets the same lesson at the same pace.
The one-size-fits-all model.
Exactly. The idea is AI tutors could, figure out how quickly a student learns, where they're struggling, and adapt.
Like if a kid's stuck on algebra, the AI could offer extra practice, tailored just for them.
Precisely. Or, flip side, if a student's flying high in biology, it could give them more advanced stuff to keep them engaged, meeting them where they are.
Which sounds great in theory, and I suppose the job market is a big driver here.
Definitely. There's this Niti Aayog report mentioned. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It projects AI could displace around 2 million tech jobs. But it also projects it could create 4 million new jobs by 2030.
Ah, okay. So there's an urgency to prepare kids for those jobs, the ones we might not even fully understand yet.
That's the argument. We need to foster adaptability. And importantly, the sources stress this isn't about replacing teachers.
Right. Augmentation is the word used.
Yes. The aim is for AI to handle the repetitive tasks, grading multiple choice tests, attendance, that sort of thing, freeing up teachers to do the uniquely human stuff. Yeah. Mentoring, critical thinking discussions, emotional support.
That focus on the human element, the empathetic side, that actually flows nicely into the next piece, which looks at language learning.
Ah, yes.
The article makes this really interesting point. Technology always changes how we communicate. Steam engines, telegraph, internet, now AI. But the fundamental human desire to connect, that stays constant.
It's a great point, because language isn't like math or engineering, subjects where AI really shines.
How so?
Well, AI is fantastic with systems based on logic, on fixed rules. You ask it to explain a physics concept, it can give you a structured, accurate answer instantly.
Because the rules don't change.
Exactly. But language is different. It's messy. It's tied up with culture, emotion, history, context. It's alive.
So machine translation, even as it gets better and better, it still misses something.
It misses the human part. It can process grammar, vocabulary, structure, often flawlessly now. But the nuance, the humor, the irony, the affection hidden in a word choice, the cultural weight, AI doesn't feel that.
The example given was translating "I miss you" versus the Spanish "te extraño," technically the same meaning.
But the feeling, the cultural resonance is different. A machine can give you the words, but not the spirit. That comes from shared human experience.
Which implies that really learning a language, becoming fluent, requires more than just memorizing words and rules.
Absolutely. True fluency, the article argues, is built through human interaction. Through conversations, shared laughter, making mistakes, and being understood anyway. It requires empathy, trying to genuinely connect with someone in their way of speaking.
You can't get that from an app.
You can help with grammar, sure, vocabulary drills. But the emotional effort, the vulnerability of trying to make yourself understood by another person, that's irreplaceable. That's where the real learning happens.
But here's the counter-argument, the potential risk mentioned. If translation tools get so good, so instant, why would most people bother spending years learning a language? Does that effort become, well, unnecessary for many?
And that's the big concern. Not that AI translation will be bad, but that it will be so good and convenient that people just stop learning languages.
And lose something in the process.
Exactly. Lose the patience, the humility, the perspective shift that comes from wrestling with a completely different way of structuring thought and seeing the world. We risk losing a type of deep, slow learning, because we're addicted to speed and ease.
That idea of deep learning versus instant answers ties directly into the next section, the opinion piece debating this AI curriculum.
Right, the practicalities and philosophies behind actually doing this in schools.
The first point from Aparajita Party is about defining our terms. There's AI literacy and AI skills.
The crucial distinction.
Literacy being about understanding AI critically, how it works, its biases, its limits, thinking about AI, while skills are more about the how-to coding, developing AI tools, natural language processing.
And the current plan seems to be literacy earlier, maybe class 6, and then skills later, classes 11, 12.
Makes sense on paper. But then Viplav Baxi raises some serious practical hurdles.
Yeah, the reality check. First, the tech moves so fast. What you teach today might be outdated tomorrow. Prompt engineering is the example given. Maybe AI will just get better at understanding natural language, and that skill becomes less critical.
So the curriculum is always chasing a moving target?
Pretty much. Second, infrastructure. Let's be honest, many schools in India lack basics, like reliable electricity, let alone computer labs for every student.
And the advanced AI models needed for skills training. Are they even available or usable in diverse local languages?
That's another huge challenge. If you can't get hands-on, the skills part is just theory.
Then there's this deeper psychological concern. Professor Stuart Russell's term, diseducation.
Ah, yes. The idea that if AI always provides the answer instantly, does it kill the incentive to learn, to struggle, to figure things out for yourself?
Could it actually make us less knowledgeable, less capable over time, even erode intergenerational learning?
It's a profound worry. And it's not hypothetical. Look at the Youth Pulse survey data mentioned.
Right. 88% of students surveyed are already using AI tools for studying.
And perhaps more startling, 57% use them just for general chat, and 42% share personal things they'd normally only tell a person.
So kids are already forming relationships of a sort with these bots, which means we desperately need guardrails around how these things are designed, especially for children.
Absolutely. Ethics, safety, psychological impact, these need to be front and center, whether AI is formally in the curriculum or not, because it's already in their lives.
And overlaying all this is the reality of the teachers themselves. The article points out the stats: 9% of schools with only one teacher, 35% with just 2 teachers, and under 50 students.
So these grand top-down plans for high-tech AI integration, they just won't work everywhere. You need different approaches.
Like the suggestion for an unplugged curriculum for schools without the tech infrastructure, focusing on the core concepts, the ethics, the critical thinking about AI, without needing the hardware.
Exactly. Because ultimately, maybe the most important skill isn't coding a specific AI model, but teaching kids how to think critically, how to find and organize information, and crucially, how to keep learning and upskilling throughout their lives. That adaptability is key.
Adaptability seems to be the watchword. Okay, let's shift gears dramatically now from education to medicine. The science section has a piece on a major change in breast cancer treatment.
Yes, specifically for HER2 positive breast cancer. It's about making treatment much more convenient for patients.
How so? What's the change?
It's moving from traditional intravenous IV infusions, which can take hours, to a quick subcutaneous injection under the skin.
For the same drugs, trastuzumab and pertuzumab are mentioned.
Yes, the standard combination. Previously, getting these via IV, often through a surgically implanted port, could mean sitting in a chair for a couple of hours, according to one patient.
Right, I can imagine that's draining.
Very. Plus, the chemo port itself carries risks, infections, blood clots. The new method is an injection, usually in the thigh, takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes versus a couple of hours. That's transformative.
It really is. And it eliminates those port-related risks.
How does it work? How do they get these complex drugs absorbed effectively just under the skin?
There's some clever science involved. The formulation includes an enzyme recombinant human hyaluronidase, which temporarily helps break down barriers in the subcutaneous tissue, allowing these large drug molecules to be absorbed quickly and effectively.
And they've proven it's just as good as the IV.
Yes, key clinical trials, like Hannah and Federica, confirm that the subcutaneous route is equivalent in terms of efficacy and safety. Patients get the same benefit.
Wow. And the time savings must be huge, not just for the patient, but for the whole clinic.
Absolutely. One study, the ADPT study, quantified it. Time spent in the treatment chair dropped from around 85 minutes for IV down to about 20 minutes for the subcutaneous injection.
That's significant.
And the total time spent in the hospital per treatment cycle was reduced by nearly 80 minutes. They even have a combined fixed-dose product now, PHS-Go, making it even simpler.
You can really see how this improves quality of life. The article mentions daily wage earners, women balancing work and family.
For them, treatment changes from this huge chunk of their day, maybe even a full day lost, to a quick appointment. Less disruption, less stress. It even allowed for home administration during the pandemic in some cases.
Incredible flexibility. But there's always a but, isn't there? Access.
That's the challenge, particularly in India. This subcutaneous therapy is more readily available in major cities, in large private hospitals.
But maybe not in smaller towns or public hospitals.
It's harder there. High patient volumes, potential gaps in the cold chain infrastructure needed to store the drug correctly, and the need for specific staff training. These are real hurdles to making it accessible everywhere. So the innovation is fantastic, but ensuring equitable access across the country is the next big step.
Equity of access, that theme often comes up. Okay, let's connect back to AI now, but from a different angle. The sheer power required to run it. The text and context piece tackles AI data centers and energy demand.
Right, and the context is that India's overall electricity demand growth, which used to be pretty stable around 5% a year, is now surging.
Driven by Digital India, 5G rollouts, electric vehicles.
And increasingly, these energy-hungry AI data centers, they're a different beast altogether.
How so? More power-intensive than regular data centers.
Massively. Traditional server racks might use 15-20 kilowatts. But the racks filled with GPUs, the graphics processing units essential for AI computation, they can consume anywhere from 80 to 150 kW each.
Whoa, that's a huge jump per rack.
It is, and globally the projections are stark. Total electricity used by data centers could more than double by 2030, potentially exceeding 1,000 terawatt hours.
Any specific examples of this surge?
Yeah, China's reportedly seeing a 25% year-on-year increase in its baseload power demand just because of generative AI. In the U.S., parts of Virginia, a major data center hub, are projecting demand growth over 25% in the next 5 years.
That kind of exponential growth needs reliable, constant power, baseload power.
Exactly. And there's also pressure for that power to be low carbon, driven by corporate sustainability goals. Which brings us to nuclear.
Specifically, small modular reactors, or SMRs.
Yes. They've emerged as a really interesting potential solution, especially for powering these massive data hubs.
What makes SMRs attractive for this?
Several things. They're flexible in size from tiny 1 mW units up to 300 mW or more. They can be largely manufactured in factories, which promises cost savings and standardization. They emphasize passive safety features.
Meaning they rely less on active human intervention in emergencies.
Correct. But maybe the biggest advantage for data centers is location. SMRs, being smaller and safer, could potentially be sited much closer to where the power is needed, right near the data centers.
Avoiding the need for massive, expensive, new, long-distance power lines.
Precisely. That transmission infrastructure is a huge cost and bottleneck. SMRs could offer reliable, 247 low-carbon power right where it's consumed, sort of plug-and-play nuclear.
Is India pursuing this?
Actively. There's a national nuclear energy mission with a significant budget, 20,000 crore mentioned, aiming for 100 GW of nuclear capacity by 2047.
100 GW is a lot.
It is. And part of that plan is to get 5 indigenous SMR designs operational by 2033, like BARC's BSMR 200.
But this likely needs private investment too, right?
Huge amounts. The estimate is around $26 billion. So the government is also looking at legislative changes, updating the Atomic Energy Act, the Civil Liability Act, to make it easier and more attractive for private companies to get involved.
What about safety concerns? People always ask about nuclear safety.
SMR designs generally focus on inherent safety. Smaller cores, passive cooling systems that work without external power, accident-tolerant fuels. The idea is to simplify emergency responses drastically.
But the regulations need to catch up.
That's the hurdle. Current nuclear licensing rules were written for giant traditional reactors. They don't really fit these smaller modular designs. So there's a big push for international cooperation, working with bodies like the IAEA, to develop new harmonized standards quickly.
Okay, a complex picture for powering the future. Let's shift continents now to Egypt. The foreign section looks at the role of a new museum in reviving tourism.
Yes, Egypt's tourism sector is vital for foreign currency. But it's taken hits from political instability, COVID, regional conflicts. They really need a boost.
And they're pinning hopes on the Grand Egyptian Museum, the GM.
Big hopes. It's enormous, 500,000 square meters, and built right near the Giza pyramids.
Prime location. What's the big draw inside?
The main attraction is the entire Tutankhamun collection. Treasures never displayed before, presented using modern techniques, immersive exhibits, VR. Apparently a huge contrast to the old Cairo Museum, which was quite cramped and cluttered.
So the goal is to pull in more
A
visitors.
lot more. They're hoping the GM alone will attract an extra 7 million tourists a year,
7 million additional. Wow. What's the overall target?
aiming for 30 million tourists annually by 2030. And significantly, they want to shift the balance, attract more cultural tourists.
Why cultural tourists specifically?
They tend to stay longer and spend more money compared to tourists who mainly come for the beach resorts on the Red Sea. They want people exploring the history, engaging more deeply.
Makes sense. Are they doing anything else besides building the museum?
Yes, it's part of a package. Improving roads around Giza, building a new airport further out to ease Cairo traffic, even relocating the entrance to the pyramids complex itself to manage crowds better and reduce hassles from touts. It's a coordinated effort.
An integrated approach. Okay, finally, let's move into the Friday review section, Arts and Culture. First, something called the India Music Retreat.
Yes, this sounds quite special. It's held at the Fairmont Jaipur, set against the Aravalli Hills. The description emphasizes the atmosphere regal splendor.
So it's more than just a series of concerts.
Apparently so. It's framed as a space for connection, personal transformation, even celebration. The example given is a guest choosing it specifically for her 60th birthday. It's about the whole experience.
And the music itself, what's the focus?
The founder, Mala Sekri, talks about creating the right mahal, the ambience, and about discovery, bringing together diverse genres, Hindustani classical, Carnatic, folk, Sufi, even jazz. The idea is to expose listeners to new sounds in a relaxed setting.
Away from formal concert halls.
Exactly. The source suggests this fuss-free presentation helps draw in people who might otherwise feel intimidated by classical music.
Like the early morning concerts mentioned, with artists like Jayanthi Kumaresh on the Veena.
Right. Listening to something like that in a serene, open-air setting, it can apparently turn people into quiet converts. It makes the music accessible.
And there's experimentation, too. Blending styles.
Yes, that seems key. Aruna Saram, a renowned Carnatic vocalist, sang in Sanskrit and French, collaborated with a Gregorian chant expert, and even performed with a saxophonist.
Yeah, quite a mix.
Another example was Sandeep Narayan, a Carnatic singer, incorporating a Manganyar folk percussionist. It's about breaking down silos.
And the audience response.
The idea is that attendees aren't just passive listeners, they become new patrons of the arts. They support the festival economy and form a kind of community, a big family, exploring sound together.
Sounds lovely. Now, from communal music to a solitary, complex figure, Guru Dutt, there's a piece about exploring his life and work for his birth century.
Yes, through a rather unique medium. Dastan-e-Guru, the traditional art of Urdu storytelling. Mahmood Farooqi created a 140-minute performance, Dastan-e-Guru Dutt.
Which is also being published, it seems.
As a book and screenplay, yes. The performance apparently covers his psychological background, his cinematic journey, his masterpieces.
How does Farooqi contextualize Dutt?
As a genius, definitely, but also shaped, perhaps trapped, by the film industry of the 1950s. It was a time of transition, moving away from the socially conscious progressive writers movement influence towards more of a film star culture.
And the industry itself was changing financially, too.
Critically, yes.
Yeah.
The source mentions it increasingly being used to launder black money, which put commercial pressures on filmmakers like Dutt.
His career is often seen in two phases, right?
Yes, the early phase. Honing his craft, focusing on technique, great song picturization in films like Baazi, Arpar, CID.
And a later phase.
That's when his personal anguish, his disillusionment, really floods into his work, creating cinematic poetry in films like Pyasa and Kagaz Ke Phool.
Is there a common thread in his protagonists?
Definitely. Farooqi points out they are almost always unhappy with their current reality, searching for something better, but crucially, unwilling to compromise their core principles. A reflection of Dutt himself, it seems.
He had a kind of formula, too, didn't he? Balancing art and commerce.
He tried, following a more artistic, maybe riskier film like Pyasa, with a more commercially safe bet like CID. But the source notes he couldn't really make truly small, independent films like some of his contemporaries like Ghatak or Ray. His productions were big.
And then there's the personal turmoil, the contradictions.
Deeply tragic ones. His cinematic vision was so progressive, so sensitive. Yet his personal views, particularly regarding his wife Geeta Dutt's singing career, were apparently quite conservative.
That conflict, plus his relationship with Wahida Rehman, it created chaos.
It seems so. Dutt eventually refused to sing for his films, which must have been devastating professionally and personally. The source even mentions him raising a bungalow he had built for his family. A terrible spiral.
A very complex, ultimately tragic figure. His story really underscores that slow, often painful process of artistic creation.
Absolutely. Which brings us nicely to our final piece about creating a space dedicated to that slow process of learning music.
Right, Swar Sadhana Tapovan, a Gurukul, a traditional learning space set up in Tamil Nadu.
Founded by the violinist Sangeeta Shankar, who comes from an incredible musical lineage. She's the daughter of the legendary Dr. N. Rajam.
And the space itself sounds unique, not a typical school building.
No, it's set on 6 acres of mango orchards in Samanur village. The design is inspired by desert camps in Jaisalmer. There are 12 learning tents, each named after a different raga.
Tents named after ragas. That's wonderful.
And the main classroom is outdoors, a 60-foot circular platform, a mandapam. Very much learning embedded in nature.
What's the core vision behind it, given the founder's background?
It's clearly rooted in preserving and passing on their deep musical tradition. But it's not just about training performers. They talk about nurturing young enthusiasts to really imbibe aesthetic values to become good rasikas.
Meaning appreciative, knowledgeable listeners.
Exactly. Cultivating not just musicians, but an audience that understands and values the depth of the art form.
And they involve the local community, too.
Very much so. They hold special classes on Sundays for local children from the village. And for Guru Purnima, they had over 50 local kids attend a concert featuring 3 generations of violinists from the family.
That's a beautiful way to root this high art in the local soil, connecting the tradition directly.
It's a lovely model.
So, reflecting on everything today, it's quite a contrast, isn't it? We have this incredible acceleration, AI demanding new power sources like SMRs, medical treatments becoming exponentially faster.
Utterly transforming efficiency.
But then running alongside that, we have these reminders of the value, the necessity of slowness, the deep effort required for language learning, the patient cultivation of musical appreciation, the years of struggle behind Guru Dutt's films, the quiet immersion of a Gurukul.
It really highlights a central tension of our times. So maybe the final thought for you, our listener, is about navigating that tension. How do you personally balance leveraging the incredible speed and convenience? Technology offers the instant AI answer, the quick medical procedure, with deliberately protecting time and space for the slower, harder, more human endeavors.
The things that require patience, effort, empathy, the things that perhaps can't and shouldn't be automated or rushed. Where does that deep learning fit in your own life amidst the acceleration?
That's the challenge, finding that balance.
A really crucial question. Thank you for listening. If you want to provide suggestions, please contact on the Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we are eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.